Ketanji Brown Jackson has been sworn in as the 116th Justice of the United States Supreme Court, becoming just the first black woman to occupy a seat on the nation's highest court. The 51-year-old, confirmed by the Senate in April, replaces 83-year-old Liberal Justice Stephen Breyer, who retires today at the conclusion of the Supreme Court's latest term. Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined by our correspondent in New York, Sherwin Bricebees. Sherwin, these are historic times. Reflect for us just how significant it is to have the first black woman sitting on the highest court in the land.
Well, I'll read you a headline that I saw just a few moments ago, Peter. It reads that she is shattering a glass ceiling as the first black woman on the United States Supreme Court, a court that has a history of 232 years, 115 justices before her. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson today becoming Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and very much a scenario, Peter, of out with the old, in with the new. She's essentially replacing her mentor. She clerked for Justice Stephen Breyer, who has been a federal judge since he was appointed in 1980 by Jimmy Carter. So that's, some time ago. An 83-year-old white man exiting the court and being replaced, as you mentioned, by a 51-year-old black woman, both Harvard graduates. And certainly a historic moment for women in the United States, women certainly within the judiciary. And remember, this is a country that hasn't ever had a female president of the United States. Hillary Clinton came close to breaking that glass ceiling. The closest we've gotten is through Kamala Harris as vice president. And if you're trying to understand the judicial philosophy, the approach of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, let's listen to her in her own words during her Senate confirmation hearing earlier this year. This is what she had to say. Watch.
I commit to you that I will work productively and defend the Constitution in this grand experiment of American democracy that has endured the past 246 years. For decade now, and I take that responsibility and my duty to be independent very seriously. Cases, posture, the facts, and I interpret to the facts of the case before me without fear or favor, consistent with my judicial oath.
That, of course, Peter, the justice, in her own words, during that Senate confirmation hearing today, of course, was very much an administrative part, certainly as part of her confirmation process. She was administered the constitutional oath by the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Roberts, and then the man who she clerked for soon after graduating from Harvard in the early 1990s, Justice Breyer, administered the judicial oath of office. Just to remind you what she said after she was confirmed by the United States Senate by that 53-47 margin in April, 3 Republicans joining all Democrats in confirming her. This was her words at a celebration hosted by President Joe Biden at the White House soon after that. Quote, "It has taken 232 years and 115 prior appointments for a black woman to be selected to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. But we've made it. We've made it. All of us." Close quotes. The words of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Peter.
What's been the reaction from other people? What have they been saying?
Well, this is certainly a momentous day in the United States, I think, particularly on the back of the decision you saw handed down last week in terms of the pullback from abortion rights, the affirmation of the pull away from the affirmation of Roe v. Wade, which had made abortion rights a federal right in the United States for the past 50 years. In that context, the war, perhaps, if you want to frame it that way, on women, this is a significant significant moment in that sense. And it's also, of course, a campaign promise that was fulfilled by President Joe Biden. You'll remember that one of his major pegs of his campaign when he ran and defeated former President Donald Trump in November of 2020, he promised and vowed to confirm a black woman to the Supreme Court, because in the 232 years of the United States Supreme Court, we have not seen a black woman sitting on that bench. The other historic part of this is that there are now 4 women serving on the United States Supreme Court. 4 women. There are 3 Democrats and 1 Republican. The last woman to be confirmed was Amy Coney Barrett, the Republican nominee from Donald Trump, who replaced the liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died just before that election in 2020, a momentous moment in itself. So 45% of the justices on the 9-member bench of the highest court in the United States is now held by women. And it's worth reflecting on what some important people in this process had to say, among them the Democratic Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who I think encapsulates really how a lot of people in the United States are feeling today. This is what he had to say a few weeks ago. Watch.
This is a wonderful day, a joyous day, an inspiring day for the Senate, for the Supreme Court, and for the United States of America. Ketanji Brown Jackson will be the first African-American woman ever to hold the title of justice. Think about the impact that will have on our democracy. Untold millions of kids will open textbooks and see pictures of Justice Jackson among the highest ranks of our public figures. How many millions of kids in generations past could have benefited from such a role model? How many would-be justices, lawyers, doctors, generals, business people have been lost to history precisely because their history books had few, if any, role models that they could relate to? We certainly have a long way to go on the road to true justice, but by confirming Judge Jackson today, we are taking a bold step forward towards reaching the full realization of our country's promise.
Senate Majority Leader, the Senator from New York, Chuck Schumer there. We are taking a bold step forward towards reaching the full realization of our country's promise. So let's put that into context, Peter. The current makeup of the court is, of course, doesn't change, right? Despite Judge Ketanji Jackson's confirmation and taking her oath today, the conservative majority is solid at 6-3. She is replacing a liberal justice who's retiring. So in terms of these big decisions, be it, the one we saw handed down in terms of regulating greenhouse gas emissions, that also went the 6-3 majority, conservative majority way. She doesn't change the makeup of the court, despite the historic nature of her confirmation today.
Historic times, certainly worth celebrating. Thank you so much indeed, Sherwin, for putting it all into context for us. Thanks very much. All right, that's our New York correspondent, Sherwin Briceby, talking about Ketanji, who's now the 3rd black person since the Supreme Court was established in 1789. Only 3. Thurgood Marshall, the first one in 1967, Clarence Thomas, who's still sitting, and now Ketanji. It's quite remarkable that since 1789, only 3 black justices in history, 2 of them sitting currently, significant history being made.